I'm the music guy, CJ Plain. This is the Noise Report, and today we're back with another fun-filled, chaotic mess of a show. You know what we do here? We laugh, we have fun, we interview cool and interesting people from all over the world because, hey, I don't stick to just one place. I go all over the world to find people. Um, this gentleman right over here, he's been on the show before, but uh, he's got a new record, so he has come back, and we're going to talk about the record and a whole bunch of other stuff. But his name is Ajay Mathurs, and he's going to tell you to start a little bit about himself, who he is, where he's from, because he's from one of the most beautiful places in the world, and going to give you a little background on himself. How are you today?
Hi, CJ. I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me again. It's
Absolutely.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah, time flies, man. And yeah, I'm here in Switzerland,
Yes.
Europe. It's actually really good here. And I was born and raised in India,
Right.
I'm an Indian, not the feather Indian, but a dark
Not the feather
So that
Indian,
was
the
India,
7-Eleven
and
Indian.
I was born and raised in New Delhi. It's a city of
Nice.
almost 20 million people now.
Yeah. Huge
So when
city.
I was yeah, and when I lived there, it was about 18 million. So it grew slightly since I
Yeah.
left. Yeah, so I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm a rock musician. I've been doing that since decades. So, and I got about six albums with my band under my belt, and now a sixth album of mine just came out. Just it was released last week. That's me as a solo artist. This album is Blow My Cover.
Nice.
Blow My Cover.
I, I listened to it and I really, really enjoyed it. Like it kind of took me back. I won't say all the way to my childhood, but it took me back to my younger years. And it reminded me of a lot of the records that my uncle and dad listened to. It brought back a lot of memories of early Clapton and Dan Fogelberg and Pink Floyd
Yeah.
and a lot of the great storytellers and songwriters and artists that there was more to them than just, I guess, who they were. I mean, there was really a whole package and element that went along with what they did, and I
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all these people, I grew up with those musicians, with
right,
listening to that music, and they basically, splashed their unique colors on me,
right,
and of course, all that influence flows into my own music, and I feel fortunate to be, to grow up in an age where there was music which is so disruptive. I mean, every
mm,
day there was new, really just mind-blowing new music which
yeah,
came out, and you can listen to it. It was like it wasn't generic, it wasn't like monotonous. It was really something very unique. Each of these groups are trying to outdo each other in terms of being different, not being alike. Like
yeah,
now, oh, you sound like this. Oh, you are in this and this genre. Okay. No, there was no such thing as genre. You actually made music, and it was we didn't have those names back then. I mean, what
yeah,
would you call beat music? Okay, beat music. Rock and roll. That's about the genre we had. Blues was also known as a genre, jazz. But in terms of progressive music, in terms of pop music, that was all called beat music.
mm,
So everything psychedelic music, yeah. So that's, of course, my m- my creativity is driven by these, great artists.
Right.
It's clear. But I do try to keep my own, my own stuff, my own, give my own, skin to the whole thing.
Right.
That's that I. But definitely, I mean, I love, I enjoy making music like that, and I enjoy, listening to that music.
Yeah, I mean, the music is uniquely you. It just it you can tell that you grew up in that era
Yeah,
of that style, like
yeah,
it's clearly there that the influence from the great songwriters were something that you listened to and you admired, and that you took the influence away that they had, and
oh yeah. I mean, that
that's
it rubs off,
yeah,
rubs on you. It's you can't avoid it. And people try,
yeah.
some musicians try to sort of, oh no, it's my original. It's all bullshit, man. And you gotta
I
accept
mean,
the fact that you listen to good music. You got a good music listening taste, and that good music affects you, and
yeah,
inspires you, and colors you, your own music. And it's tragic then that some of the younger musicians do not acknowledge the fact that it's all built up
yeah,
upon different music which is already there.
yeah.
So very,
Like,
very little is new.
I mean, it's one of them things where influence wise, sometimes you have the unique gift that you do sound like someone, and you can spend your whole life running away from that, or you can lean into it.
Yeah.
Case in point, there is a phenomenal new singer, or newer-ish singer. His name is Dino Jalusic.
Dino
Um,
Jalus. Okay.
yeah, he's
Oh,
from Croatia.
mhm.
He came out a few years back. If Ronnie James Dio and David Coverdale had a child together, it's Dino. Like, Dino goes back and forth of 1 second he sounds exactly like Ronnie, and then he'll sound like David, to the point where David hired him as the keyboard player for the last Whitesnake tour. Then he
Okay.
got hired by Trans Siberian Orchestra, and now he's doing his own stuff. And Dino has said in interviews, "Look, I know I sound like David and Ronnie." He's like, "I'm not running for him. I leaned dead into it and took that influence to play heavy music." And he's one of them singers that everybody loves now because he's phenomenal. And he doesn't hide from the fact that he does sound
Yeah.
very much like David Coverdale or Ronnie James Dio, and he just runs with it. He creates his own thing. It's got a very progressive rock style to it. But it's almost as like it's like White Snake played a Dream Theater record, is
Okay.
kind of what Dino does, and it's phenomenal. So
Yeah, you've got to accept those. I mean, um you've got to accept your influences. I mean, I'm grateful
yeah,
that all these musicians were there,
yeah,
and I enjoy. I mean, back there is my record collection. It's all old
yeah.
stuff, most of it is really old stuff. Yeah,
You see right
exactly.
here, Prince and Pink
I
Floyd
listen to
and
that, and I listen to records a lot. I'm actually a listener. When I listen to music, I sit down and listen to music.
yeah,
I can't have That's me. I can't have any headphones or cans or whatever you call them. I can't walk and do and work while listening. It's just, for me, it's just too. It just absorbs me when I
right.
listen. Music is on, just absorbs me. I can't work. There's no background music for me.
And that's
That's
the thing. Like, music really is an experience. Like,
yeah.
it tells a story of your life. It tells a story of there are songs that when I hear that song, I can remember the
Oh yeah.
exact place and time I was.
Oh yeah. The music has the power of capturing, you know, in events and memories in
Right.
an amazing way. I mean, they've done these experiments with people
Mm.
with Alzheimer. You
Yeah.
put on a music and they remember everything,
Yeah.
everything. It just comes back. It just a couple of notes and they know everything again.
Yeah.
It's just magical, you know.
It is.
Music has another, I mean, if you're a singer, you know, if people who stutter, you know,
Mm.
a lot of singers who stutter in real life, but when they sing,
Yeah. Mel Tillis.
nothing, nothing. It music. It just it it. There are different brain waves which are
Yeah.
going there. It just completely overpass bypass all this stuff you're dealing with in day-to-day life, and that's the beauty of music. Music captures your memories in the best possible way. There's a it's
Yeah.
you hear a song and it just takes you instantly back to some memory which is attached to that song. That's the amazing thing about music.
Yeah. Mel Tillis is the perfect example. Mel,
Yeah,
stuttered horribly, but he could sing like I mean, one of the I won't say one of the greatest, but one of the far above average country singers from back in the day.
Jonathan Wilson, same. I mean, he
Yeah.
stutters, but when he sings, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's so melodic. Everything's really cool, when it comes through
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
Music it's so amazing, and it's one of them things where um I've seen over the past few years where even I've seen clips of people that were autistic, almost nonverbal, that have written, you know, orchestras and they've performed on America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
And, just it's so amazing where music can take a person, even a
Yeah.
person who society looks at in a completely different light.
Yeah,
Um,
I know. And another thing about music is that, music helps you learn how to learn.
yeah,
That's the thing. When kids start learning an instrument early on or start singing, there's a lot of that that energy which flows through that learning process, which helps them learn other,
yeah,
subjects in school. It just takes everything up because and music like professional musicians, those are the people who are extremely dedicated. I mean, they practice, they have a routine of practice. They're not chaotic, and they can actually go into all kind of different um, things. And if you've done the basic music, learning,
mm,
you know, thing
yeah.
as a kid.
So let's talk about this record, Blow My Cover.
Yes.
Um, Talk about I guess the concept of it a little bit and kind of how it came about and what because it's really a unique concept. I've never really seen someone do this. Like I've
Yeah.
seen people do cover records and I've seen people do tribute records, but I've never really seen an artist take the concept that you did and sort of run with it because it's I don't
You
I,
know,
I don't think a lot of
TJ, I'm
musicians have the
I'm a
confidence.
crazy guy.
Right? Like, I don't think a lot of musicians would have the balls to let other musicians take their music and just be like,
Oh
here, do
yeah.
whatever you want with it.
It was almost an act of self-preservation for me, back then, when everything closed down,
Hmm.
and all my gigs, everything got canceled within a week, gone. And everything in Europe, the borders were closed. Can you imagine it? That's all open border. You can drive through any country. Closed one day after to the other. It was all closed. Everything closed. I couldn't get anywhere. Nobody could get to me. All my gigs were gone, and I started sort of going down in a downward spiral, emotionally. And thank God I've got a really good partner, my girlfriend. she's amazing. She also writes lyrics from Mary Lou.
Nice.
And we were sitting down, and she noticed that I was sort of going down that spiral of depression, sort of, I was at the edge of that rabbit hole. I didn't want to
Hmm.
be there, but I just couldn't find anything. So she said, look, AJ, every musician, every artist is in the same
Right.
place today. So, and you've lost control over your life, basically. I said, yeah, I've lost control over my life. She said, why don't you do something creative with the thing about giving up control? I thought, and I went down to the studio. I thought it out. Yeah, it's actually, let me see. Maybe I should just let other musicians do my music
Hmm.
and don't give them any guidelines, don't give them any deadlines, don't ask for anything. Just say, choose a song or two or whatever, and just interpret that song the way you would do it, in the structure you would do it, in the key you would do it, in the tempo you would do it. And if you have something, just send it to me. But I won't follow up. So I made a list of about 25 musicians, whom some of them I've worked with already, but a lot of them I've never worked with. But I've known them, I've seen them play live, I've heard their records, and I really admired them. So I wrote to them. I've Googled up a lot of contact information wherever I could contact them through social media or email or whatever. And I wrote to them and selected some songs for them because I wanted to give musicians specific
Hmm.
choice of songs which would fit in their style. So I wrote to them and say, here are some songs. I know we all have nothing to do right now, so why don't you try and interpret a song? You have the full freedom, any key, any structure, whatever. If you send me something, great. If you don't send me anything, also great. Nothing nothing off. you know i'll be I won't follow up on this message, so it's all up to you. So I did that in May 2020, and I forgot about it and started working on Talking Loud, my last album, which that was sort of kind of the the liberating you know energy which came out of this thought.
Hmm.
So I sent it out, and I was expecting maybe one or two, people send me that. So I put it on the upcoming album, Talking Loud, for instance. So I forgot about it and started working on Talking Loud. And then in end of August, I got my first track from Chicago from a jazz musician. He sent me a track, say, here's a draft track. Really like that tune. Listen to it. What do you think of it? So I listened to it, and I couldn't figure out which song it was. It was so different. And I said, oh yeah, this is Little Boat, the title song of my fourth album. Great. He did it was so different because he just sent me chords. There was so resounding chords. And he put brought down the tempo, almost brought it down
Hmm.
from 110 to 80. So it was really slow. It was also a different structure. And I said, great. I love it. Just
Yeah.
if you have something more, send it to me. If that's it, it's good. So he sent me a couple of more tracks. And from then on, from September, October, and till 20, it's like November 2022, the songs, tracks kept coming in from all kind of musicians, from Japan, from South America, from
Nice.
France, from Italy, every all the musicians. A lot of musicians actually pitched in with their creativity, and I didn't change anything. I didn't add much, not much, maybe a little percussion here there. I didn't
Hmm.
play any guitar. On this album, AJ has not played one note of guitar.
Nice.
I'm a guitarist. But I thought, it has to be pure because it's their interpretation. I'll take it as it is. Maybe give a color here and there and sing on top of it. I sang everything and just leave it. And that it was such a rewarding experience for both sides. But the
Hmm.
musicians, their feedback was exactly that. It's a great, act of trust. I said, yeah, that's what I expected. I mean, we musicians trust each other. If you can give musicians the liberty to do, to what they'd like to do, it a lot of magic happens, and that's
Hmm.
that's something which I'm gonna take over for my future albums, for future music.
Yeah, it's musicians are a funny bunch when you let them kind of do their own thing and give them that creative space. They can really come up with incredible stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
um
yeah. That differentiates between excellent musicians or exceptional musicians and sort of the middle tier of musicians. Middle tier, they'd be kind of uncomfortable to try something of their own. They expect more. And that's
mhm.
my experience from the studio. They expect you to tell them, play
Yeah.
this, play that. But these exceptional musicians, given the chance to actually do something on on top of their own creativity, they come up with really fantastic stuff. I mean, the,
Yeah.
the most bizarre tracks which I got was from Fausto from Italy. He sent me 6 percussion tracks, electronic percussion, and
Mhm.
said, "This is my interpretation of my world." I said,
That one
"What?"
was I really liked that one because that was the one to me. I just kept thinking, man, this could be a Pink Floyd track. Like
Yeah,
it had that between the between the snippets of like the speaking
yeah,
and the beat of it and then the guitar and the drums over it. I just kept thinking, I couldn't help but think like, man, like this would not have been out of place on the wall. Like it just
yeah,
had that
yeah.
type of vibe to it. Like it had that like this belongs on a concept record that's telling a bigger story about political discord and everything happening in the world. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, man, you could take this track right here and
Yeah,
write
my world.
another whole record around it, like a concept record, like
Yeah,
from beginning to end that
yeah.
just tells the
It's
story
also
of.
one of the tracks I did the most work on because I did a lot of mashups from the. I took the
Mhm,
original tracks from the original song and those slam poetry snippets,
mhm.
and just a couple of guitar and bass snippets. That's just little things and little things I threw in, but the bass is all uh, it's percussion from Fausto. He gave me these six tracks, and I sort of muted some and kept some, and yeah, it was a great adventure for me. It was personally, it was so refreshing because what? Once you get so used to the songs which you've released already, which are on
Mhm.
record, you've played them live, and so used to singing those songs in a certain way. But when I got these tracks back, I had to completely change the
Yeah.
way I perceived and I thought and lived those songs and I sang those songs. I had to literally change the concept of melodies. They're still the same kind of melodies. Some of them have changed a lot, but had to change, had to rethink and relive into those songs. And that was a very rewarding experience for me.
Yeah, I like I said, I really enjoyed this record. Like it just had that spirit of stuff I grew up with, and it's so rare by today's standards with music being what it is today, with so much with so much technology being available to musicians and hearing musicians that they are pushing the envelope in a lot of ways, either with mashups or with merging styles or creating new styles. Um, there is some really great music and stuff, but it can be very cold sometimes,
Yeah.
like in the sense of the music is good, but it lacks personality. Sometimes it
Yeah, and
lacks that,
spontaneity. It's
yeah,
a
it
lot
lacks
of
that
that.
human touch. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And I think that's what made that era of music
yeah,
so great was when you listen to people like Dan Fogelberg, when you listen to Stephen Stills, when you listen to Springsteen or Gordon Lightfoot, there was a personality to their music. Like you really felt where they were coming from. You lived those songs, and you could relate to them because they wrote about stuff that the average everyday guy lived. Jimmy Buffett
yeah. I
created
know.
an entire industry
Yeah, I know. I know.
of of songs about going to the beach, and
Yeah,
the average guy who couldn't be a pirate, but he could listen to Jimmy Buffett and imagine that he was a pirate
yeah.
for a while,
Oh, yeah.
or
It took you to
that he was a
places.
beach bum or whatever,
Yeah,
and um
yeah, yeah. But what I really like to, what I don't like, what I rarely do is actually construct songs. A
mhm,
lot of a lot of the electronic stuff which is coming out, a lot of them are sort of construct. You got a beat maker providing the beat, you got this,
mhm,
and you got a producer here doing the vocal producing. It's a lot. It's good. It sounds good. It sort of fits in, but it's kind of constructed, and for me it lacks, the element of suspense.
right,
What comes. Because once you got the verse, you got the hook. It starts with the hook, it goes into the verse, and
right,
immediately goes into chorus, and then hook, and then you have a bridge, and then it's all, and it's got a underlying beat going, and everybody, it's all about getting the right beats per minute and all that. Yeah, yeah. Record companies expect that, and
yeah,
I said, fuck that. I don't need that. Just
yeah,
it's and on this especially on this record, it's it needs it's human. It's almost, and
mhm,
that's also the way I mixed this album. I
right,
mixed it again with Austin in Los Angeles, and we did three-dimensional mixing. You listen to it through the cans, and you will actually sit among the musician.
mhm,
You'll be in the middle, and you'll hear stuff going
right,
around you, but it's stereo. It's not Atmos, Dolby Atmos and all that. It's stereo, but it's using those really old but cool techniques to do
mhm,
binaural three-dimensional sounds, and we use that extensively on this record
yeah,
because it has a lot of space. You can do that on a normal AJ Mathur record. You won't have enough space to actually let the sounds play out, and and sort of do magic stuff with you,
right,
with the consciousness. But this was a record which allowed me to do that. That's why I kept that simple. I mean, like song like Pennies to Gold. It's just got a guitar, one track. I got
mhm,
one track guitar, my vocals, and just a little bit of birds in the background. That's it. Yeah, it's and or the last song,
yeah,
one guitar, one voice. That's it. That's it. And I recorded my vocals early in the morning. You can hear that really that that
yeah,
deep. Yeah, yeah, that's a right time of the day when you can record certain vocals, and that was my choice of the time of the day. So all this was a very rewarding experience for me, blow my cover, and even the album cover itself, the story behind it is also pretty cool. It's uh, if you're interested, I can tell you, we
yeah,
met a couple they're from Australia, and we met them couple of years. I think 2019. We met them in Portugal. We took a
Nice.
road trip, and we were both waiting outside a restaurant to open. It's supposed to open at 7. Nobody was there, 7:10, but except for the two couples. So we started talking, and when the restaurant opened, we ate. We had a great time, and then years later, they came to Switzerland, and Jean Pierre showed me pictures and photographs he took, and he showed me this picture, which is, it's oh, here it is. I mean,
Nice.
it's a snake and a seagull.
Yeah.
They are basically enemies, They eat each other.
Right.
But here in south of Spain, they were here. They were cautiously, you know, looking at each other, but there was an element of trust between the two creatures. And he took this picture, and I thought this is exactly the right picture, because this was also a thing about trust,
Right.
between for the other musicians and for me, that I just give up the stuff and they send it back. It's all about trust.
Yeah.
So this picture, when I saw this picture, I said, this is exactly the cover of my Blow My Cover album. It's
Yeah.
even that was a coincidence, how this thing happened. And life is full of coincidences, and if you just leave your mind open, a lot of great things happen. And
Yeah.
I don't like to plan things, because while you're planning, like John Lennon said, while you're planning, the life keeps happening. And then you miss out on life, and you have a shitload of plans
Yeah.
which either fade away or fail, or you don't, or you procrastinate. you know Anything can happen, so it's
I'm
best to actually just let the things flow
yeah.
for me.
Like I'm currently taking classes online to be a sound engineer and a record producer.
Great.
Um, and I'm learning a lot about this. I've been doing this for 30 some years. I've been involved in music in some form or another, either as a songwriter or as a DJ or a podcaster or whatever. But I'm learning these new elements, and some of the teachers are, they've said to me, you seem to be all or nothing. And it's like, what do you mean? Well, you either have this very bombastic style of mixing, or you have this very simplistic, laid back style. There's really no in between with you. And I was like, well, that comes from my love of three main people. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, one, the simplistic side comes from me listening to people like, well, you talked about Fogelberg and Gordon
Yeah.
Lightfoot. I said the other side comes from my love of people like Rick Ross and Jim Steinman,
Mm-hmm.
things like Meatloaf
Bombastic.
and
Doesn't get any bombasticer than Jim Steinman.
right. And I was like, that's where it comes from. There really wasn't a lot of music that I listened to that wasn't one or the other.
Yeah.
I was either into the metal and the punk, which was very bombastic, or I
Yeah.
was into the singer songwriter stuff or
Mm.
the country stuff. So there wasn't really a lot of pop or stuff in the middle that just kind of was there. It was one or
Yeah.
the other, and
Yeah.
that's the way I think. Well, you have to learn to be more this or this or this. And I'm like, but that's not who I am. Like, I know what I want to do as a producer, and I know who I want to work with. And these are
Yeah.
the types of artists I want to work with. Like, I don't care about people like Taylor Swift that are just kind of floating in the middle and are comfortable with, yes, they're making millions of dollars and I'd probably get rich by working with them, but I'd be bored out of my mind. I would really much rather work with you on something like this,
Yeah.
because this is something at the end of the day I would go home and just be like, I really love these songs. I really love the style of it. I really love the ambience that is
Yeah.
created for it, and I would get so much more out of it. So I would literally, on my side of it, I would take less money to work with someone like you than I would to take a huge payday to work with somebody that I was just going to sit there and be fucking bored because I
Yeah,
was
I
just
mean
pushing
that's
buttons.
yeah, but I was recording. I was a sound engineer and producer from the mid '80s to about end of '90s. Did everything
Right.
from Swiss folk music to death metal, everything in
Right.
between. Pop had to do it because I was working in a
Right.
studio and a lot of things I produced as well. A lot of avant-garde experimental stuff I did,
Right.
you know, which this people wouldn't do. But it was a huge learning, upward learning
Right.
curve for me in terms of, first of all, people, get to know people. People are so unique,
Yeah.
and but there's a commonality between each of us, and that commonality is sort of the mutual respect and courtesy.
Mhm.
It's very subtle. It doesn't have to be
Right.
extreme. It's just subtle, accepting, listening. I remember these Swiss folk musicians. Swiss folk. They used to turn up at like 5 o'clock in the morning because they've just milked their cows between 4 and 5.
Right.
Rushed out. They have to go on the fields at 7, so they came. You know, all cleaned up and in their beautiful clothes. Although we were recording, but and and it's such a special it was such a special experience for me than compared to like some jazz musicians
Right.
who turned up, who actually woke up at 7 o'clock in the evening and then recorded all night. They
Right.
recorded till morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. And some of the most sweetest people I've recorded were death metal
Yeah.
artists. Wow. I mean, and the stuff they do is so crazy, so
Yeah.
crass, but they are the sweetest people. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing.
I've got friends in, like I said, I've been doing this for a very long
It's
time,
just
and I've got,
it's just completely contrary to what they
yeah.
project. It's
Yeah. I got friends that play death metal, that play, some of the most aggressive,
yeah,
meanest sounding music.
I
One of
know.
them
And
is in a band called Atheist, and he's this monster guitar player, and he sings, man, and it's just like, and it's just roar. But when you meet Kelly off stage, he's the kindest, gentlest guy. He's always got his little puppy with him, and he's an animal lover, and he runs a pet sanctuary for animals, and it's just like, dude, like, it's so, King Diamond. It's
yeah,
another example.
it's extreme. It's really
Yeah.
extreme. I remember the first time this group called Venom came to
Yes.
our studio. And these guys, I was kind of nervous,
Right.
you know, because they had a nasty reputation of being the
Right.
loudest band, and
Yep.
Motorhead sounds like a lullaby
Yep.
in front of
They
compared to
were the
them.
originators of the loud.
Yeah, yeah. And but these guys, sweetest people, really good
Yeah.
musicians,
Yeah.
fantastic people,
Kronos
amazing
is
to
a
work with.
yeah.
And that
Kronos is
carried
a
on, went
monster
on
songwriter.
to local bands which I've recorded and produced. Just it's also, it's kind of, I had to learn to be open,
Hmm.
being musician myself. I remember how it felt when I went to the studio to record for the first time. I was nervous like shit.
Yeah.
It was like some, oh my God. And you stand there in the recording room, with the guitar, and there are people behind the glass, window, and you don't hear what they say. And then you start playing. Oh God, this is so nerve
It's
wracking, the first time.
studios are the first time I ever went into the studio as a musician. I'd played live so many times. I'd never been in a studio. When I got into
Yeah.
the studio, it took about 10 minutes for me to realize this is a whole different animal. Like this is
Oh
just
yeah.
completely, and I hated it. Like it was so, I was just like, you know what? I don't like this. It's this, one, two, three, four, one,
Not
two,
only
three,
that,
four.
the thing is that the thing is when you listen to yourself for the first time, your recorded voice, it sounds so different.
I wasn't
So
singing, I was
different.
just playing bass, but it was just one of them things like,
It's the same thing with with guitar. My
yeah,
guitar sound, it sounded different outside when I was listening, when I
yeah,
was playing, than it sounded through the speakers.
yeah.
And that sort of threw me off at the beginning. That was the first album we recorded, but it was very bizarre experience for me. But I got used to it. It's just
Yeah.
it's got used to it. And studio, the engineer was a great guy. He
Yeah. I guess
made, it's easier if you have the guy on the other side of the window is a good guy who can actually work with you. But I mean, I've been in studios in Holland,
yeah.
complete assholes on the other side of the glass. It's just, you know yeah, it's just the musicians musical world is pretty different. Studio Working in studio is so different, so different. you know but I'm so used to it now. It's almost like, okay, what do we record? But I can feel the nervosity and or nervousness people
Mhm.
have, and I can feel the pressure. And my job as a producer is actually to bring down the pressure to zero.
Right.
That's my first job. It's everything's cool. I mean, I've had 23 school kids here recording a children's choir on
Nice.
my third album. These kids, when say, okay, now we're recording, like everybody was kind of, oh my God. So I said, that's just chill. I stopped saying we're recording. I just gave the wink to the teacher now, and she started. So it's just how you play the band, you play the musicians, individual musicians. It's very rewarding to see how you can bring them in a place as a producer. You can bring them to a place where they can perform at the maximum. And that's an amazing thing. In case of Blow My Cover, it was taking it to a whole different level. I said, here you are, complete freedom, do something. And it was amazing. I got 13 songs back, which is great.
Yeah.
Compile an album, and not one interpretation came back, which I thought, suboptimal or whatever. These were all great musicians. I knew that
Yeah.
from the start, but what they delivered, some musicians said, sorry, can't do that. Not in the position right now, not in the right state of mind. But the ones who delivered was great.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
This is, like I said, this is so well done. Like and really being in these classes now,
Mm-hmm.
I listen from I guess a different place than I did before,
Yeah.
because I'm starting to hear and notice little things that I would have never noticed or picked up on before. Like
Yeah,
before, I was just a
you're
music
becoming a
fan listening.
pro. You're becoming a pro, man.
you know, so it's I stuff that I would have thought, hey, this is really well done. 2 years ago, I listened to it now and I'm thinking, ooh, that's kind of rough there. This is really, like I said, it's so well done, and it's even. Like I'm saying, like the flow of it
Yeah.
is really good. Like it has this balance and flow throughout the songs where it doesn't go like high to low in in this really extreme way like some records. And
Yeah, I spend a lot of time in the sequence of the songs.
yeah,
Very important.
that's the
It's like
word I'm looking for, a
storytelling to me.
sequence.
Sequence, yeah. I've spent a lot of time, when I all the mixes, all the even before I knew this is the song that's going to start the album, and this is the song that's going to end the album. That was clear from the start, you know, because it was about forgetting about yesterday. Forget about yesterday starts the album.
Yeah.
So in between, I put a lot of thought into the flow, how the story unfolds of the album, and I actually just a day before I sent the DDP, the master to the you know the record uh, factory, who
Hmm.
make records. I changed the sequence, the last minute sequence. I changed because I thought, yeah, I don't know, this needs to be here.
Nice.
It's a really fine thing, and it's sort of you have to keep
Yeah.
the energy, like you said, the flow, the energy
Yeah.
needs to go with it. Every previous song needs to sort of invite you to listen to the next song, and and keep that flow and energy of the
Yeah.
level that people are interested in. You can listen to, yeah, okay, that's cool. So I do spend a lot of time in figuring out the sequence of an album. I'm an album person.
Yeah.
I'm it's like those days. Even now, releasing an album is for me, it's a whole work. It's a body of work which has a start and an end.
Yeah.
And if you if people just randomly listen to each song, they're also okay. Each song you can listen to individually, but there's a whole different experience if you listen to the whole album as an album, you know. And that's always been my intention. That's especially on Blow My Cover. I think it's worked out really well. Yeah.
It I think it has. So where do people find you social media wise, website wise? Where do people contact you, get a hold of you, find your music?
Yeah, I think the hub where people you can go from there to all my social media accounts, all my YouTube, my the hub is my website. That's ajmathur.com, AJAYMATHUR.com. And that's you got all the links underneath, all the social media links, and you got YouTube links, you got all my music, you can stream from there. You can go to all streaming platforms for all my albums and stream music or buy music if you want. If you're a collector of vinyls, you can buy vinyls or CDs. A lot of people still buy CDs, thank God. They still sound good.
Yeah.
And everything, the best place to start is the hub. And I'd love if people would follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, I'm not that much on Twitter. Uh, it's turning into something different
Yeah.
than I expected. But surely on Facebook and Instagram is a good place. And follow me there. I've got great YouTube channel with a lot of live music, live concerts, a lot of playlists with live music, which you won't find on the albums, which you should check out. But everything from AJAYMATHUR.com.
Yeah. Yeah. Say some of us still buy physical
Oh
CDs.
yeah, I've still got a huge collection of CDs. I
Um,
mean, CDs are it's clear that they still sound the best. Vinyls are cool,
yeah.
but I mean, I grew up in the days of
Right.
vinyl.
And I did as well. Like
Yeah,
you know,
they're warmer, but CD has got the maximum depth, richness of sound is amazing, and then the dynamic
yeah.
doesn't nothing beats that. Even the streaming does it. It compresses everything.
Yeah.
Streaming compresses. CD is still the original dynamic. You know, it's still good. I listen to it. I've got a CD player in my my car. One of
I,
the that was one of the things. I said I'm not going to buy a car without a CD player.
it's It's a funny thing. My dad's a truck driver, has
Yeah.
been for 52 years, and he has a newer truck, has Bluetooth, has the CD player, has all of that in it. But one of the very first things he did is when he got that new truck, he pulled the damn 8-track player. He's had this 8-track player since the 70s. And he
Oh,
pulled that 8-track
wow.
player out and put it in his truck. And the guy looked at him
Oh,
like he was completely insane. And he's like, "The hell
ah,
are you doing with that?" And dad's like, "That's how I listen to my music." And the guy's like,
so cool.
the
So
guy's like, "What the
cool.
hell is it?" And his dad's like, "An 8-track
Yeah.
player." And he's like, "8-track player." And then dad goes into the back of the truck and brings out this big wood case he has. He has all
With
his
H
old,
music. Yeah.
the Jerry Reed and
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
Blackfoot and
It's
the
all
Leonard
available on
Skinner
the internet.
and the Boston and Marshall Tucker band. He has all of this shit still on 8-track. And the guy's looking at him like, that has
What's
Bluetooth,
that?
right? And dad's like, "What the hell is Bluetooth?" Like,
Oh,
hey, the guy's looking at him, "You don't know what Bluetooth is?" My dad's like 75 years old and has been driving truck for 52 years. Like, he doesn't give a shit about Bluetooth,
of
like
course not.
my dad has always been the guy that, stick the 8-track in, pull it out,
Yeah.
push it in, pull it out, push it in, pull it out.
Yeah.
So
Same thing. Same thing with CD. You
yeah,
put it in,
and
pull it out. Yeah, that's it.
he has all the old vinyls at the house.
Yeah, and I personally don't need 2 million songs at my fingertips. I just need a
I,
good CD. That's all.
I'm
A good
guilty of
record.
that. Like,
Yeah.
my music collection is massive because I work in the studio a lot, so a lot of it is digital.
Yeah.
But I also, like I said, I still have the big collection of
Mhm.
the CDs that I collect as well because I do like to put them on the stereo in the room and
Yeah.
whatnot. So
Yeah.
I
I
have a good
remember,
balance of both.
I clearly remember the first time I heard a CD. That was way back in 82. It was the classical CD. This was Herbert from Karajan doing Tchaikovsky. And the classical was the first who got on CDs back then. So it's really heavy Sony CD player was the first one. Then Philips brought the next one out, and this was that listening to classical music on in a studio on through those monitors, zero zero noise. Literally, you heard no noise, and the dynamic was just out of the it blew our minds. I mean, there were like five guys there, and we just put it on, and just wow, what a fantastic future, man. That's great. I mean, you could never bring that kind of dynamic on a vinyl. Not
Yeah,
possible. It's since CDs came out, and then the streaming killed it again, because they start compressing it. But CD is still there, in that huge dynamic range. Yeah, that was quite a that was quite a mind-blowing experience for me.
yeah. It's funny that um the very first record that I ever bought, the first vinyl record, um the um the very first vinyl record I ever bought was the record Slade by Slade. So
Cool.
when CDs came out, I sort of got this brilliant idea that I wanted my first CD to
To be
also be
Slade.
Slade. Um,
Okay.
so the first CD I actually bought was um Keep Your Hands Off My Power Supply by Slade because I had Run
Right.
Runaway on it.
Mhm.
And even though it was an older record, I chose that one because
Mhm.
I kind of wanted like my first CD and my first
Yeah.
record to be the same band. And um I've always loved Slade because Slade was, they were so far ahead of their time with the sort of glam
Oh
rock
yeah.
type
Oh
of
yeah.
thing.
They were the
Um,
king of glam rock.
but
Absolutely. No question about it.
um, I've had so many great artists that I've transitioned from vinyl to record to streaming. Um, bands like Boston and Bob Seger and whatnot. So I love the fact that there are multiple media forms that people have access to, and that vinyl is still available, and you still have CDs, and even cassettes are making a
Yeah.
comeback now.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, they're making a comeback. I know.
and it's funny to see because they were such a pain in the ass in a way to kind of
I know.
carry around and have back in the day, when you always had
Yeah.
to have the pencil, because if you take that
Remember
out,
the first Walkman with
yeah,
with the
yeah,
cassettes?
I had the Radio Shack
Yeah,
version, the realistic,
yeah,
which was actually made by Pioneer, but it had Radio Shack's
yeah,
name on it of realistic. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, I just this is AJ Mather, um, phenomenal record called "Blow My Cover," and he's got so many other great records as well. You can check him out. He's on everything, as he stated. Um, There's Apple, Tidal, Amazon, Bandcamp, SoundCloud,
Everyone.
YouTube, Vivo. Just there's really no excuse for you to say you can't find his music because it is all over the place. And
Yes. You all you need to do is Google AJ Mathur music. That's
yes,
it. That's it. And you
exactly as he stated. So
Google
um
is your friend.
sometimes, sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes finding people. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming back on here and talking about this record and allowing me again to sort of, subject you to my own brand of chaos, I guess.
Oh, I love it. I love talking to you, CJ. It's always, we can talk about so many different things.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the whole conversation. It's not like an interview. You throw a question at me and I answer the question, and it's not like that.
I
I
try
love
to
it.
make it more interesting because look, I understand as a former musician and now moving into this next phase, I get that you guys probably get asked the same 10 standard questions time after time after time.
Yeah,
So
a lot of times.
while we do have to cover some of that ground,
Yeah,
I try to make it more than just, hey, when's the record coming out? Are you going to go on tour? Are there any videos? Talk about the guitar you use. Who are your influences?
yeah,
Listen to
absolutely.
this record. Your influences are, I don't have to ask you who your influences are. It's
Yeah,
pretty
it's there.
obvious of what the background that of the music you loved. And again, I'm not saying that it's a copy of anything
No,
or
it's not.
anything above that. It's just there were artists that you could clearly hear who they were influenced by. Ray Wilson. I love Ray Wilson, but you can't listen to Ray Wilson and say this man was not influenced by Pink Floyd.
Yep.
It's completely obvious that Ray was hugely influenced by
Yeah.
David Gilmour,
Mhm.
and that's okay. I,
Yeah.
you know, do your thing. I love Ray Wilson, and one of the nicest guys I've ever got to interview, but it just is what it is. And like I said with Dino leans into the fact that David and Ronnie were the guys that he wanted to be, and here he is at 27 conquering the world
Yeah.
by doing that. So um I hope in the near future when I finish this program that I get to work with you in some capacity more than
Oh,
just this, and we'll get together and you know
I'm open to
discuss.
working with everybody who's,
Yeah,
with
I got a list of people that I definitely, I have a list of when I get this done and I got my degree and everything, I'm gonna start emailing people and be like, hey, even if it's one song, just
yeah,
let me have that one song with you, and we'll see how you feel after that. And
absolutely, absolutely. I
if
mean, I'm so open to collaboration now.
yeah,
It's this album, Blow My Cover. It's again. I'll show you the picture again, but
yes,
you can't miss it. Blow My Cover.
Seagull and the Snake.
Eagle and the Snake. A Matter of Trust. Blow My Cover. Yeah, this album. I'm so open now and it's opened up a whole universe of possibilities for me. You know, there's so much. You know, I'm so comfortable now working with people, you
Right.
know, who I know they've got their level. You know, they're not starters. You know,
Right.
they're not just starting out. They got level of experience, and if you know, I'm so comfortable giving this away, and people, you know, can send me back things, and working remotely and working in collaboration with people, artists across the world. This album is just like the first showcase, and I'm gonna take it to the limit with the next one,
Nice.
probably. You know.
I can't wait to hear it. I really can. You know, I love what you do. So,
Thank you,
uh,
thank you. Thanks for having me, CJ. It was great talking to
absolutely.
you again.
As always, you know how we end it. Um, we have three rules here,
Okay,
three mantras, so to speak. Be
okay.
well, treat each other with kindness. Remember, no matter what you're going through, music heals.
Oh
That
yes,
said,
I completely agree with that.
yes.
Yeah.
With that said, we'll catch you on the next show.
Thank you.